Oh, for more, let's go to Oxford. Emily Taylor is an associate fellow at Chatham House and its International Security Department. Thank you for speaking with us on France 24.
Thank you.
How far is this all going to go?
Well, it's very difficult to tell. We've got very little details about the reasons why these two Canadian nationals have been detained. And of course, as your report outlined, Meng Wanzhou was released on bail on Tuesday. However, the backdrop is of widening and deepening tensions internationally, both on trade and cyber espionage and cyber attacks done by states against each other. This places companies and individuals who are either doing business or part of NGOs in China and in the West in very vulnerable positions potentially.
Yeah, because Huawei is not just any tech giant, is it?
No, absolutely not. Huawei is primarily a technology infrastructure, telecommunications infrastructure provider. So it might be known to many people, many of your viewers, because of its leading role as a handset provider. But a big difference is that if you don't like your handset anymore, you can just throw it away and start again. If a company is providing telecommunications infrastructure, as it is, for example, in the United Kingdom, or if it's providing, say, the control systems for the next generation of nuclear power stations, then this isn't something that you can easily rip out and start again. And it just highlights the role of trust. When you are providing low-level infrastructure in these communications or in power stations, it's really essential that trust is there. Otherwise, it can really affect trade.
Why didn't Western regulators think about this sooner? After all, we know that Huawei was originally, if you will, the baby of Chinese military intelligence.
Yes, and well, there have been many allegations made about Huawei. It's worth noting that Huawei denies any links to the Chinese government. In fact, there have been question marks about Huawei and its links to China raised by regulators, raised by critics for many years. For example, the US Senate have raised questions, and regulators here in the United Kingdom have done the same. In fact, in the United Kingdom, just as an example, there is an installation called The Cell, or nicknamed The Cell, in rural Oxfordshire, where Huawei employees work closely with the intelligence services from the United Kingdom to sort of take their systems apart, put them back together again, look for bugs and so on. These are sort of examples of confidence building measures that have been in place for some time.
And yet we had that incident, if you will. Yes, we can call it an incident, just a couple of weeks back when UK regulators said they were going to pull Huawei's license for 3G and 4G in the UK.
Yes, that's right. And that was accompanied by a series of announcements from what we would call the Five Eyes, the network of countries that cooperate very closely on intelligence: US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Of course, New Zealand and Australia made similar announcements at similar times, and this happened at the same time as the arrest of Meng Wanzhou in Canada on extradition, likely extradition to the United States. I see this as part of a changing strategy by Western nations, perhaps, where they are making coordinated announcements aimed at calling out activities of some countries.
Is it too late, though?
We saw this in October.
Is it too late, since we know
well,
that?
It's very difficult.
Because we know, like, all the Apple's equipment is made in China. We know so much Western equipment is made in China. Who's got who over a barrel?
Well, it really underlines these global supply chains and our reliance on technology. These infrastructures, they're not easy to replace. And as you say, China and other countries are really integrally involved in the supply chain, whether it's of devices or of telecommunications infrastructure.
One final question, Emily Taylor. These remarks made by Donald Trump on Tuesday in an interview with Reuters, he said, well, we're willing to let Meng go if it can further the cause of those trade talks we're having right now with Beijing. Of course, later the Justice Department told him, no, Mr. President, you can't do that. What impact are those remarks going to have?
It's difficult to tell because, of course, with the separation of powers, you have an independent judiciary. So it shouldn't be within the whim of the president to make that sort of call. However, it does highlight the crossover between these trade tensions over cybersecurity, and the vulnerable role, perhaps, of individuals who find themselves caught up in these geopolitical events.
Chatham House's Emily Taylor, many thanks for speaking with us from Oxford.
Thank you.